Imagine devoting your entire life to supporting a family who depends on you, only to discover they'd throw you under the bus the moment you need them most. Amalia thought she could rely on her family, but when her younger sister betrayed her in the worst way, her family's reaction shattered her world. Instead of backing her, they sided with the sister who'd stolen her husband and demanded Amalia be reasonable. But betrayal doesn't come without consequences. With her heart hardened and her mind set, Amalia made a choice that would leave her family scrambling. The sweet taste of karmic justice was just beginning, and this time, she wasn't the one making sacrifices. Welcome to the Payback Vault, your go-to hub for revenge stories, epic karma, and jaw-dropping payback. If you love thrilling tales of justice, betrayal, and intense drama, you're in the right place. I'm Amalia, and responsibility has been my constant companion for as long as I can remember. Growing up as the eldest of 4, I was the one who had to keep everything together in our small, bustling home. My parents were hardworking people. Dad put in long hours at the construction site, and Mom worked 2 cleaning jobs. Money was always tight, but they did their best to provide for us. I respected them deeply for it, and I felt it was my duty to help as much as I could. Then came Ivy, my baby sister. Born when I was 10, I was already a little adult by then, pitching in wherever I could. But with Ivy, things started to change. Mom and Dad would call me over. Amalia, could you help with Ivy? Or, Amalia, take care of your sister. And I would. I was glad to help. Yet Ivy, she was different. From an early age, she'd learned how to get her way with charm and a well-timed tantrum. I'd watch as my parents gave in to her demands, brushing off her behavior. She's just a baby, Dad would say, chuckling when she threw another fit. Let her be. But that baby act didn't go away as she got older. Instead, it only intensified, and my parents continued enabling her every whim. Meanwhile, I was busy with responsibilities, not just household chores, but my own dreams. I took my first job right after high school at the local diner, saving every penny in a jar I kept hidden in my closet. My dream was to go to college, break out of the cycle of just getting by, and build a stable life for myself. Every night, I'd count the money, thinking about the day when I could finally start classes. That dream finally came true when I enrolled in community college. The exhaustion was real, juggling classes and work. Some nights, I'd fall asleep right over my textbooks, but each time I glanced over at Ivy, skipping school, throwing tantrums, my drive only grew. I promised myself I wouldn't rely on anyone else. I was going to make it on my own. And I did. I finished school and got a job as a junior analyst at First National Bank. My supervisor once pulled me aside and said, Amalia, I've never seen someone as dedicated as you. Within months, I was promoted to handling accounts and eventually became a senior analyst. My career was taking off, and I was finally seeing the life I'd worked so hard for take shape. Then, I met James. He was charming, kind, and had a genuine warmth about him. We connected over our shared backgrounds and dreams for the future. One rainy evening, he sent me a message saying, how about we share a boring coffee? Talking markets? That coffee turned into dinner, and those dinners turned into 2 years of a relationship that felt right. He was understanding of my career, supportive in ways I'd never experienced before. One night, after a homemade dinner, he held out a ring and asked me to marry him. It wasn't a grand proposal, but that made it even more special. I said yes, thinking my life was finally as close to perfect as it could get. Introducing him to my family was surprisingly smooth. My parents loved him, and even Ivy seemed to behave herself, for once. My parents were thrilled, saying things like, we're so proud of you, Amalia, you've found someone who'll take care of you. The wedding was beautiful. James fit in so seamlessly. He even became close to Ivy's son, Tommy, treating him like his own. Ivy watched this with an intensity that, at the time, I found odd. She'd make comments like, you're so lucky, Amalia, he'll be such a great dad. But then the pressure began. First, it was small questions from my family, then from James himself. When will we start a family of our own? He'd ask, watching Tommy play with a wistful look in his eyes. But I wasn't ready. I'd explain, we need a house first. We need savings, stability. James would sigh. Disappointment etched on his face, but he'd drop it, for the moment. The tension grew slowly, so subtly I almost didn't notice it until it was too late. I was so focused on our future that I didn't realize I was ignoring what was happening right in front of me. Then, one Saturday morning, while sorting through old things in our closet, I found it, a hidden phone. My stomach tightened as I opened it, not fully ready for what I was about to uncover. The messages were from Ivy, message after message. My hands trembled as I read each one. Miss you already, can't wait for Saturday when she's at work again. My vision blurred with rage. My sister and my husband. And then, there it was. The message that made my entire world collapse. Doctor confirmed today, baby's yours. I don't remember driving to my parents' house. Everything after that was a blur. I barged in, threw the phone on the table in front of Ivy, and demanded an explanation. She just shrugged. You know now, she said, as if she was talking about some small inconvenience. I waited for my parents to stand up for me, to condemn her, to show any ounce of loyalty, but instead, my mother sat beside Ivy and said, Amalia, please try to understand. Tommy needs a father figure. James is good for her. I was speechless. It was like a scene from some twisted movie. My mother, patting Ivy's hand, urging me to be reasonable, as if this betrayal wasn't shattering everything I had built. My father sat quietly, refusing to meet my eyes. When he finally spoke, he muttered, maybe this is for the best. Amalia, you never wanted kids, and James does. That was it. I'd given them everything, time, support, money. I had sacrificed so much for a family that wouldn't lift a finger for me. I left, cut off from all of them, and filed for divorce the next day. The only ones who stood by me were my brothers, Mike and David. They helped me pack up my things and start over. For years, I rebuilt my life. I moved into a new apartment, one that overlooked the city. I focused on my career, my dreams, and, finally, myself. And it felt liberating. My brothers would keep me updated on Ivy and James, though I rarely asked. The updates were never good, struggling financially, moving constantly, and with 2 more kids on the way. They were living in the chaos they had chosen. Then, one day, my phone rang. It was James, his voice filled with desperation. Amalia, please, don't hang up. Ivy's had an accident. She broke her leg, and she's pregnant again. She can't take care of the kids. We need help. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. Help? I asked, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. You're asking me for help? He tried to guilt-trip me, saying the kids were innocent, that they needed someone to care for them, but I knew better. Goodbye, James, I said, hanging up and blocking his number. Days later, my mother's number appeared on my phone. I almost didn't answer, but something in me wanted to hear what she had to say. Amalia, please, it's Ivy. She needs help. We've done all we can, but she just keeps asking. Your father and I are out of savings. And the kids. I cut her off. Let me get this straight. You're calling me, the daughter you abandoned when I needed you, to ask for help? Silence on the other end. Family only matters to you when it's convenient, doesn't it? Amalia, she whispered. Please, we didn't know. Oh, you knew. I replied, my voice sharp. You knew and you chose. Now you have to live with it. The desperation tour continued, but my resolve was firm. Each plea only reminded me that I'd done the right thing by cutting them off. My brothers would occasionally update me on the drama. Ivy and James were living with my parents. Everyone was miserable, and my parents' retirement was dwindling fast. And yet, for the first time, I felt peace. My life was my own. My choices were my own, and I was finally surrounded by people who valued me. One night, while having dinner with Marcus, a wonderful man who respected me for who I was, I realized that family isn't who you're born to, it's who you choose. I had my brothers, my friends, and Marcus by my side. In the end, Ivy and James may have taken pieces of my past, but they never owned my future. The family that betrayed me had only revealed which parts of my life were worth keeping. And as I raised a glass with my real family, I knew that the karma they were living was just the beginning. Justice served, one story at a time. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. And tell us, what would you have done in Amalia's shoes?